This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.
Welcome back. Jonathan Clark in the studio with a gentleman. You know him as a brilliant award-winning musician, producer of music, film, TV shows, concert promoter, a tour manager at times. He's looking around the room like, who are you talking about? His memoir, which I will hold up here, The Life I've Picked, a perfect title, A Banjo Player's Nitty-Gritty Journey. And we not only have a book, we have an album, too, called Made in Brooklyn. He's on tour now. Book signings happening. All the info, johnmceuen.com. He is John McEuen. How are you, man?
That's me.
That is you.
I'm good.
People have been asking you to write this book for how many years now?
Oh, probably 15 or 20. I do interviews, and radio stations would say, gee, that was a fun story. That ought to be in a book. Rock,
right.
Rock, you ought to write a book. Rock.
Yeah.
They kept saying that.
And now you've finally done it. How long did it take you?
12 years.
12 years.
To get it. I mean, I worked on it, then it sucked. Then I like this one story. Then I put other stories together. And then I ended up with like 85 stories.
Right.
But it wasn't a book. It was just a bunch of anecdotal remembrances.
Yeah.
And they were fun individually, but if you put them together, it's like it didn't have a story.
Well, if you put them together, it's a movie as far as I'm concerned. But so you just won an award for this album recently, right? What was the award you won?
What a shock. It was right here in New York City. And my buddy Matt Cartsonis here is all over the album, and I think he's a good reason we did so well with this. The Independent Music Awards Association gave it the Best Americana album last March.
That's interesting that's the award you got, because there are people that say that Mr. Bojangles actually started the Americana sort of movement or genre, I should say.
I think it's a perfect choice myself.
Yeah.
I played mandolin on that, and there's only one electric instrument on Mr. Bojangles, a bass.
Right, yeah.
Played by Les Thompson.
Oh,
who's
yes.
out playing with me now, along with Matt. But
no electric instruments on our version, though, on Made in Brooklyn.
Right.
Yes, which leads me to that song is on the album, Mr. Bojangles, sung by the great David Bromberg, right?
We were sitting around the studio, Chesky Records, which I'm awful honored to be on their label. Norman Chesky said over many conversations things like, no, you can't use headphones. No, there are no monitors. No, if you're playing, if you can't hear the guy playing lead, then you're playing too loud. The way we record...
He has a valid point, actually.
Yeah, very. The way we record on Chesky Records is from one microphone in the middle of the room, everybody gathered around. And
wow, okay. So that's really old school.
It's new and old school, because the record... I put it this way, Jonathan. Even if you don't like the music on this album, that doesn't matter. It's the best sounding record out there.
So I read you just 2 hours. You did 2 days, 12 hours each day, and that was the entire length of the session to do this album?
Yes, we did 14 cuts. And the thing is, we did 13 cuts, and we started talking at the end of that second day. I was asking David about how he used to do Bojangles with Jerry Jeff Walker, and he was known on the East Coast for doing his own version. When you go out and play solo.
I saw him play that with my dad at the Bottom Line, which no longer exists, unfortunately.
Right.
Remember that club?
Well, yeah, Alan Pepper didn't file his payroll taxes. And they caught him.
This is why you wrote the book. You know all the inside stuff. His name is John McEuen. The Life I've Picked is the new book, A Banjo Player's Nitty-Gritty Journey, and the latest album, Made in Brooklyn. Going to the book for a moment, you met Steve Martin. How old were you when you met Steve Martin?
Well, we were both 16 years old. We were heading to be seniors in high school. And we were in Disneyland trying to get a job at the magic shop. The dream job. We were both doing magic, teenagers.
Any job's a dream job when you're 16, right? I mean, if somebody's going to give you money to do something at the end of the week, I mean,
Well, I'd worked for my dad for a year and a half, but I was driving a forklift and cleaning diesel equipment, and that was not a dream job.
Not sexy.
But we met in Tomorrowland in Disneyland and had lunch.
That's just perfect, right?
I got to break in here. I mean, if you ever saw Steve Martin or John McEuen do rope tricks or card tricks, you will understand why it was a dream job.
And I remember the balloons with Steve Martin.
That all came from the magic shop.
Did it really?
When Steve first started his act, about 2/3 of it was from magic shop routines.
Good for
like,
him.
Like picking up this box all painted with Chinese dragons and stuff, holding it up in the air and say, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Chinese mystery pagoda box of the dead." And he sets it down on stage and goes on to something else.
Well, Steve Martin, you guys have known each other for a long time, since you were, like you said, 16. And you recently, within the last few years, you produced a Grammy-winning album for Steve, right?
That was so much fun. I was living in New York. I moved here several years back.
Yeah, you lived here for a while, right?
For 5 years. I wanted to get some things done. And in New York, if you live here, you will get some things done. Or you won't be living long.
Right. It's very fast paced here.
Yeah. If you're depressed and you go outside, you immediately have to start thinking, I don't want to get hit by that bus. Oh, look at that guy over there. I'm hungry. Oh, there's a place to eat. And it was a good place to live. I got to know Joy Reynolds really well.
Oh, right. The
I
legend.
I got to play with 50 goats and a cow on a Sesame Street video doing Oh, Susanna.
Oh, man.
And meet David Amram and record with a bunch of people. And one day Steve called me up and said, "Hey, where are you? Can you come over to my place and listen to some banjo tunes?" And he had about 11 banjo tunes, just him playing the banjo, things like that.
Did he start when you started playing banjo, or did you start first as a teenager?
We both started at the same time, and I was able to pick up things quicker, and I'd show them to him. He calls me his banjo mentor, teacher kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
But he was quick. I'd learn, "Hey, Steve, I just learned this off the record." And I'd show it to him, talking about, and it'd go. And he'd go, "Okay, I think I got it." And that's about as far as you get. You go. He would just.
I think it's interesting.
Later.
You guys were growing up in California. You probably saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, like the entire rest of the world. But you don't go out and get a Gretsch guitar and a Vox amp. You go for a banjo.
Well, the Dillards were playing in Orange County, California, at a club called the Paradox, and I saw them for the first time, and it just took me away.
Right. So it wasn't the electric guitar, it wasn't the mop tops, but you actually produced a Bob Dylan concert in 1965.
I could tell back then that I had to do more than just play the banjo. And when a guy that owned the Golden Bear said, "You got a couple $1,000 to go in with me on a Bob Dylan concert?" I went to my dad and asked him, and he co-signed a note. And this is the same guy that had said to me earlier, "I don't know about this music business. I think you're going down the wrong road."
Oops.
5 weeks later, I paid the note off and had made $2,400 on the concert and bought a new banjo.
Oh, man, that's fantastic.
It sold out a high school auditorium in about 2 days.
Was that during Like a Rolling Stone being on the charts?
No, it was just before the Freewheelin' came out.
Oh, okay.
Back at this, it was just right around that. Who is this guy? Oh, you haven't heard of him?
Well, at that point, he'd only been around for 2 or 3 years, maybe, or something. But
and he was a village guy. And this was Southern California.
I mean, a press darling, but not like Bob Dylan, like a Rolling Stone yet.
Right, not at all. He walked out. I had a front row. I could see the stage door open. I saw him get out of the limo with a harp rack on and the guitar on, walk to center stage, play for 75 minutes, and he left with $5,000. And I went, "That's a good job."
That is a good job. Was he wearing the Ray-Ban Wayfarers at the time?
No, it was just plain old harp rack and him.
Oh, man. So let's get one fact straight. The Nitty Gritty Dirt Band were actually the very first band to play the Soviet Union. It was not Billy Joel.
Well, yes, that's true. And Billy Joel was a single with a band.
Right.
A guy.
Yeah.
They wanted an actual band in 1977, and they'd committed to bringing over a band, a democratic, or more like anarchic band.
Right.
And they chose us. We did 28 sold-out shows.
What was the craziest thing that you experienced over there? Because this was before the Cold War ended, obviously.
It's a variety of crazy things. A guy shows up to do a radio interview. "I have radio station in town. I want you to come by and do my radio show. It will be good. I will call you tomorrow at the hotel." And I don't hear from him for 5 days. And he shows up as we're leaving. He goes, "Oh, very sorry. KGB saw me talking with you, and they picked me up and put me in a medical facility for study for 3 days."
Wow.
Until you leave town, they did not think I should be talking to you.
Unbelievable.
It was believable to him.
Yeah, 28 sold-out shows, though. That's amazing. Over the years, you have made many friends, and to this day, you call them friends. People like Linda Ronstadt, Jackson Brown, the late Leon Russell, obviously.
Oh, man, he was a good one.
Willie Nelson, the late Greg Allman. I remember you actually were at one of those legendary Beacon Theater shows with the Allman Brothers. You got up and jammed with them, right?
Oh, yeah, you were there a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Greg called me and said, hey, can you come by? Hey, could you come by with your banjo and play on a couple tunes?
What songs did you play on?
A Circle and
Will the Circle Be Unbroken?
Yeah, and come into my kitchen. It's always hard to say that. Come into my kitchen.
Yeah. Will the Circle Be Unbroken, one of the defining country albums of all time, came out in the 70s. Triple platinum, which you were really the impetus for this album to happen, right?
Well, I got to ask Earl Scruggs in 1971 at a concert in Boulder, Colorado, if he'd record with a Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. And he said, I'd be proud to, which was a shock to me and a wonderful surprise. A week later, Doc Watson, he was there at the same club, and I asked him the same question, and he was in. And 8 weeks later, it all came together, thanks to Earl and Louise finding some really iconic people to play with us.
When you first met Greg Allman and Duane Allman, I think your brother Bill was managing them, but they were not called the Allman Brothers. Was it the Allman Joys?
Yeah, we met them on our first promo tour in St. Louis. They were playing a bar. And my brother saw him and said, you got to get to L.A. I'd like to manage you, and I can get you a record deal. And then send me a picture. And a week later, a little 4x4 picture, like taken with a
Polaroid?
Yeah, almost, yeah. And it shows the Allman Brothers about an inch tall standing next to a Lincoln Continental. Well, here's a promotion picture.
Wow.
He still got that, too.
What was Greg like and Duane like? Because a lot of us never got to even see an interview with Duane. Because he died so young.
He was a very sweet, nice fellow that got, unfortunately, involved with getting out to L.A. in the middle of the drug haze and mixing it with Southern Comfort was not a good idea.
Yeah.
Duane was a genius guitar player that drew people to see him anytime. And it took him a couple years to straighten out his personal demons that were attacking him from that. And he was, I ran into Duane at the Atlanta airport once. I'm carrying my banjo case, and this is about 6 months before he died. Hey, Duane, it's good to see you, because they lived with us for a couple months in Hollywood when they first came out. The Dirt Band had a house, and they were on one floor, and we were on the other 3 floors. It was a mess.
I can imagine. I'd say it was a party, too, but that goes without saying, right?
Well, everybody was working.
Yeah.
And anyway, Duane said, get that banjo out and pick me a tune. And I said, well, Duane, we're in the airport. He goes, I'll take care of anybody in Georgia that doesn't want to hear a banjo. Get it out. And he gave me an Eat a Peach T-shirt.
Oh, man. And, so great.
He was such a sweet guy and such a genius player.
How many concerts have you done with the Dirt Band and solo concerts as well? I read some number. Is it like thousands and thousands? I mean,
I think it's about 8,000 Dirt Band shows. Plus maybe a few, and several, probably 2,500, 3,000 of my own, because anytime out with Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, as often as possible, I try to book a date of my own, either before or after that run of dates, or maybe in the middle.
It was amazing reading in the book that not only were you in the band, you were also tour managing, you were getting amps, you were getting sound systems and lights and travel plans and plane tickets.
Jonathan, when the band started, I was the only one old enough to rent a car. So I became road manager. Les was 17. Jimmy was 18. And I was 21. We were on the road. And that experience for 11 years, I wish I'd gotten $5 an hour for all that time, because it was 40 hours a week at home and an extra couple hours a day on the road. But it's fun keeping it all together.
Yeah.
And it was really, like we showed up at the Cheyenne Frontier Days once, and the equipment hadn't made it. And Jeff and Jimmy are like, oh, I guess we're going to have to cancel. I said, look, we don't have to cancel. I've already called 2 music stores. You'll have gear on stage. We're playing this show.
That band would not have held it together had it not been for you. I'm telling you. After reading this book,
on 4 hours' notice, I got drums, bass, guitar. Oh, and I borrowed McPhee. What's his? Yeah, John McPhee and
Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, no, Doobies.
Oh, Doobies. Okay.
He was on. They were on the show, and I said, "Can I use your fiddle?" He goes, "Sure thing." That's when I started playing a Zeta fiddle.
There are a couple really incredible stories in the book. One about Tom Petty. Tell us about that one.
We were recording Circle B Unbroken Volume 3 and doing Willie Nelson out in L.A. at a studio out there, and Tom Petty's down the hall mixing one of his records. And I'm going, Tom Petty. I'd sure like to meet him. Oh, wow, he should be on this record. So I'm waiting for the playback to stop. And this playback stops, and I just go right in and say, Mr. Petty, my name's John. I'm with a group called Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, but I have a question. We're recording down the hall, and I wondered, have you ever wanted to sing with Willie Nelson? And that really caught him off guard, and immediately he was, well, yeah. Well, why do you ask? I said, because he's down the hall, and we'd really like to have you sing with him and on a verse of Goodnight Irene. You know, sometimes I live in the country. Oh, hey, let's go. He went right then.
Unbelievable.
And the whole event was over in probably 30 minutes. He came in and introduced himself, like he had to.
Yeah.
And it just worked out great.
And you had a relationship with Johnny Cash and his family, too, over the years, right?
Well, when you give somebody's mother-in-law their first gold album, that was mighty good, and that worked out so well, boys. The Circle B Unbroken album was Maybelle Carter's first gold record.
Unbelievable.
And I had a great time with Cash. I'd sit in with him a bunch of times, probably a dozen times over the years, and then opened for him a few times solo. And the Dirt Band played with him a bunch, too.
Yeah.
So I'd see him in that format also. And that was really fun to do a show with the Dirt Band, then go out and play, as Cash said, John, you come out and pick on the Carter songs with us.
Oh, man.
You know,
so great.
I'd say, let me think about it, yes.
Well, it's John McEuen, and we have Matt Carsonis here as well. You brought some beautiful instruments. You want to play a song for us?
You got $1?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll pay you after. Tell us the name of the song and then just go for it.
This is a song that's on the new album that Matt really wanted to do, and I think it's great that he picked it because it was written by Warren Zevon. And Zevon's a very overlooked American writer that needs more attention.
Well, in some circles, anyway. He was a good buddy, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Worth saying, Matt. Mm-hmm. Matt played with Zevon for 6 years towards the end of his life.
My Dirty Life and Times.
Right. And I got to call Steve Martin to play banjo on this because it's a frailing style. And this is the first time that I'll be able to say I'm replacing Steve Martin in a role.
In this role.
In this role. I'm now doing Steve Martin's part.
You hear that, Steve?
Yeah.
So. Not only that, he hired Steve as a side guy.
Nice. And he's on the record as well. David Bromberg as well. And so let's hear it.
Okay, this is from the Made in Brooklyn album. This is the, you could call it the two-man version of Dirty Life and Times.
That's how this acoustic music works, though, didn't it? Sometimes I feel like my shadow's casting me, and some days the sun don't shine. And sometimes I wonder what tomorrow's gonna bring when I think about my dirty life and time. One day I came to a fork in the road. I just couldn't go where I was told. Now they'll hunt me down and hang me for my crimes if I tell them about my dirty life and time. Someone, but she went out for a stroll. Should've run after her. It's hard to find a girl with a heart of gold when you're living in a four-letter world. Oh, but if she won't love me, then her sister will. She can say one thing and mean another's will. and she can't seem to make up her mind when I tell her about my dirty life and times. Sometimes I feel like my shadow's casting me, and some days the sun don't shine. Sometimes I wonder how I'm still running free, all up and down the line. I get a little lonely, don't you know what I mean? And I'm looking for a woman with low self-esteem, who'll lay me out and ease my worried mind while I'm winding down my dirty life and times. Who'll lay me out and ease my worried mind while I'm winding down my dirty life and times. Yeehaw!
There they are. It's John McEuen and Matt Carsonis playing live for us here on Q1043's Out of the Box.
Nice
Out of the
band.
Box. John McEwen's latest album is Made in Brooklyn. And, of course, the fabulous memoir, which will soon be a movie, a big Hollywood production, The Life I've Picked, a banjo player's nitty-gritty journey. Guys, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jonathan.
John, I want to retell a story. Full disclosure, my dad did PR for the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band way back in the day. And he said one day, let's go to Aspen, Colorado. We're going to hang out with the Dirt Band, and we're going to stay in the house with them. And if you see some guys with some funny cigarettes that smell kind of weird, don't worry. It's going to be fine. We're all going to be skiing anyway.
That wasn't me, okay?
It wasn't you, but just so many great memories. And then seeing you play at the Aspen Inn with Steve Martin warming up for you.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable memories. And I remember your little segment in the Dirt Band show where you would end every sort of thing saying, that really cracks me up. Well, guys, thank you so much.
The first time I met your dad was in '67. He was our first publicist, and I'm in the Americana Hotel on the 30th floor waiting for this guy to show up, some publicity guy. And I had those little plastic bags that you'd put things in, and I'd filled a bunch of them up with water, and I'm throwing them out the window saying, wow, look at that go.
You're like Keith Richards, all right.
Man.
I mean, come on.
It was just a little water balloon thing, and your dad came in, he turned white. He said, what are you doing? Do you want to go to jail?
There's no statute of limitations on that either.
Yeah.
And we're right by the cop shop.
Yeah.
That was so great. John,
Anyway, Jonathan, like I said to my mom, thanks for having me.
John, thank you. Matt, thank you. Everyone
you.
go out and get the book and the new album, and we'll see you guys real soon.
This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.